we are about to move on to the next segment. So just to say this for the viewers and for you guys listening, we're about to have a woman named Samantha Dick and a man named Nicholas Oka. I hope I said that properly. Up on stage, and they are going to be debating what I believe is gun rights. So, hey, Samantha.
She's here?
Yes.
Hey, Samantha.
Your voice is still muted?
Get the paper.
Yes, she's got it.
Okay, never mind.
All right.
Hello.
Yes, I'm bringing Nick in right now.
Fantastic. Yay.
Yes.
Excited.
Yes. Yeah. He was in the waiting room really early. I hope you're having a good day.
Yes, I'm having an amazing day. I had classes all morning. I went to run in this beautiful weather, and making the most out of today. So very excited. It's my favorite. So, so yeah, we're doing good.
Yes. So Nicholas, I see that you're in the chat, but I don't see a camera. If you look at this is how you fix the audio.
All right. Hey, how's it going?
Perfect.
Hey. You guys hear me great?
Hi, Nick.
Good. Hey, how's it going?
Yes.
Nice to have you on.
Hey, thank you.
Nick, do you have a camera or no?
I do not have a camera. I'm sorry.
That is totally fine. We appreciate you coming in and being a part of the show. As Sam said, we're Providence Haven. We're basically a group of people trying to use our individual skills to help push each other and develop each other's ideas.
That's awesome. Pleasure to meet you guys. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Without further ado, I'll let Samantha take over the show. She has her program. You guys are good until about 6:25, and then we'll come back in and end things out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Feel free to have as deep of a discussion as you want. See you later.
Yeah. 25 minutes should be enough, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly.
Thanks, Alec.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so hi, Nick. It's so nice to be able to talk with you again, and thank you for doing this with me. So like I was telling you, I am doing this little community program called We Are Human, and it's partnered with Providence Haven. So we're working together to try to change the world. But basically, my goal for my project is to help people see a different perspective and to learn from people's different opinions, that we can all try to understand each other deeper as human beings and just, progress as a human race. So that's my main goal, because I'm sick and tired of seeing polarization. And and like, just, I feel like just as people, we need to connect with people deeper. And
I really like what you guys are doing. I think this is very commendable. And there are a lot of things in the world right now that I think could be fixed by people just talking to each other, even though we may disagree in some points or whatever it may be, as long as we have a good discussion and just learn from each other.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. Like my thing is I wanted to talk with people who I disagree with, or just have conversations about things that two people disagree on, because that's how you learn from each other. And it's hard, it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's not like an easy thing to do, but nothing really worth it is easy. So that's just my philosophy. But if you're ready, I'm ready to get started, and I'll just be asking you a quick question. So previously we discussed how we're going to be talking about guns today, and just like the gun debate that's happening in our world right now. So my first question to you is, what is your stance on guns, or just the gun debate in general, and why do you feel that way?
Well, my stance on the whole gun debate, whether it be from people who may not like them or people who are really gun-ho about them, pun intended, I think it's a very polarized discussion, and I do believe that people should definitely sit down with either side just to learn new things. I mean, there's people in the gun community who are, stand vastly. There's people who are, the hunters. There are people who just shoot competitively. Other people who just self-defense, or some people who just, bought a gun and just keep it in their closet for, whatever.
Right.
And those people would have different takes on the opinion. I personally think that it gets a little bit out of hand. I think people tend to go and I guess hate and do all these things, whether it be from either side, obviously.
Right.
I do think that's bad, and I feel like most people should have a conversation, an open conversation about how they feel about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I agree with you. That's amazing that that we're just already starting to agree with each other. And so I guess from my point of view, because this will be a philosophical conversation, if you don't need to have anything prepared to talk about specifically, it's just gonna be this normal conversation we have about our opinions. And I just want to start by saying that I understand its significance specifically in our country. We do, it's our Second Amendment. It's extremely significant to like the principles and structure of our country and society as Americans. And I know it's like a touchy subject, for some people. And I think just my personal opinion on it, with, things I've seen in the media, with, like massacres, gun massacres or school shootings, for example, is kind of like the big one that everyone's aware of. And also as a social work major, aspiring therapist, someone who wants to work specifically with mental health, I'm really intrigued by the fact that there aren't a lot of like restrictions or rules, any kind of guidelines, because restrictions can kind of have a negative connotation to it, but some sort of structure that we use as some sort of like behavioral test or anything that has to do with assessing someone's mental state. And I think that, like, for me, is one of the biggest factors in this debate, is that that's what I want to see out of pieces of legislation, and that's what I want. Like, that's what I see it progressing into, in like a positive direction. That's just like my perspective on it. And so I guess I am like pro gun control, or just pro, like, I don't know, kind of like just being able to have some sort of regulations that ensure people's safety the most, that are, to the highest level that you can, and and still being within like having some sort of freedom in those. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like my first thought about it. Do you have anything you want to say to that?
Yeah, actually, so by restrictions, I was just wondering, like, what exactly, like, in your idea of, like, let's say you were going to put a policy into place about this gun situation, what first steps would you take to get those gun controls, your countermeasures? Like, what would you put in place?
Right. Okay. So there's a little bit of information that I know. I'm aware of the crime bill that was enacted, I think, in 94, 93. I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah, are we talking about the automatic back when
Clinton?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to bring in information, but this will set up my question, my answer to your question. So basically, I was reading about that, and how there were actual restrictions on the types of guns that were sold, and the types of people that could actually purchase those guns. And I was interested in that because it was still, it allowed people to still go out and buy guns that were eligible for that. Right. I understand it was repealed in 2004, so obviously there were some issues with it. But I liked like the whole concept of that, and how it was basically like focused on having people, well, it was to reduce crime, but it was to make sure that the people that were able to purchase guns were mentally stable, or just they were going to use it for the right reasons, which whatever you consider right reasons, because obviously that is all up for perspective too. That you can consider hunting or for sport, because that's also, like what you were saying. Yeah. And so I really liked that that direction of like trying to make some sort of legislation or policy that discussed mental health specifically. And kind of incorporated that into the entire equation, because I think that's like guns specifically, they're dangerous weapons. I don't know if
well, yeah, that's a little redundant.
Everyone can agree that it's it's dangerous, and it can cause fatalities and lots of harm just with one click.
Of course.
And so that's, but there's also other things that are dangerous too that aren't guns that are legal, and so keep that into perspective. But really, like just discussing like what the actual issue is in like why people are angry. I think that's what we just talk about is like why is it such a polarized conversation? Like what is making people angry about it? Because it's not just guns in general, it's all these occurrences that are happening that guns are involved in, you know.
I honestly think the reason why most people I guess haven't fired a gun, or that may be an issue that would come into someone's mind. You know, for example, like let's take for example the AR-15, right? That's a huge gun that's super polarized, and you know, one groups love them and the other ones hate them. So you know, a lot of people think, for example, just to put this out there, an AR-15 is fully automatic, right? The people think that, and that obviously isn't the case. I mean, there could be variations of the AR-15 being fully automatic, but that'd be an M4, and then you'd have to go through numerous registrations to even get it legally, right? And that's also what they could use in the military one now. But you know, personally speaking, obviously I can't speak for the whole gun community because everybody thinks different things. I definitely think that you know, some people may be confused at some laws and what some gun parts actually do and do not. Like I've seen some bills go into place where they would, you know, ban a barrel shroud on a shotgun, which just keeps your hand from getting burnt by the barrel when you're shooting it. Like, you know, stuff like that, where, you know, the discussion can actually be taken place into, hey, how do we actually stop, you know, these psychopaths getting guns and getting it, you know, into the guns of people who are skilled and can actually do a difference in the real world. Because any idiot can shoot a gun. You know, any idiot can shoot a gun, but it takes time, dedication, and passion and focus to go and actually get trained with it and being a good marksman. And then therefore you gain that appreciation of, you know, what it's like to, I guess, carry a firearm and protect others around you. It's a big responsibility, I think, when you do that. Very, very big responsibility.
Wow, I really loved how you said it was a big responsibility, because I think a lot of people from, you know, the pro-gun control side, or, you know, that binary, a lot of people think that people are irresponsible with guns, and that's the whole issue. And that way people just, you know, it's like, you know, the whole redneck stereotype, you know, they just
right.
That's it.
Like that guy from the Tiger King.
Yeah. I need to watch that actually.
Oh man, I see that show and it's like, oof. All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Okay, I now this and I'm gonna watch it. I about it and how it was like some sort of art, and I really did that because that makes me see it from a different perspective. That you see this as not just your hobby, that you know it's something, and that you have this opportunity to do that in like our country. And I think that like that's what like my side, you know, people who have similar philosophies to me about this, I think that's what a lot of people are missing from that, is that people just enjoy that part of life, and they enjoy you know, that type of sport, can I call it that? I think that's
you know, you could call it, I think that's fair,
and so I think like that was beautiful. So I definitely I learned something from that, because everyone has different interests and hobbies and
of course
things. And I think like the question of ethics also plays into this conversation, and like people's different morals and values, and and genuinely, you know, there's a spectrum of morality that everyone thinks differently. Everyone has different values and what they want to pursue. It's different. Everything is different for everyone because we're all individuals.
Right.
And obviously there are some things that we agree on. I think that's another big thing too, is that like these two sides of this debate have different ethics, which is okay. Like, I think a lot of people don't see that as okay. And I think we have to remember, as a human race, like we're all different anyways. And so it's good to be different because that's how we learn, you know?
And it's funny because, you know, actually, before you go on, I was going to say, I spend like, when I go to the gun club and I go shooting on my Sunday mornings and I spend times with guys, sometimes we bring up the discussion of like, you know, some debates about like gun control. And some of them do, stand and agree, like, hey, you shouldn't carry a gun unless you pass like a test, or you're over 25 years old and you've done a lot of time behind the trigger. And there are other people who, thinks like everybody should carry a gun. And there are different thoughts about different, freedoms to, the extent on how free or how easily it should be for you to carry a gun and such. So I just want to put it there that there are people with different thoughts and different, moralities about the whole issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another big thing too, is like, specifically if we're talking about guns in our country, America, it's our Second Amendment, like we've already discussed, but that is built into our, our foundation, our makeup of rules and principles that we as Americans follow, in order to try to be just and merciful and all those good things. And so when something like that, piece that it's, it's in our Constitution, it's huge, it's significant. Well, I think that's what triggers a lot of people also. And just in general, everyone about the conversation, is because we're almost, like we're asking the question, should this be part of our, set of principles?
Right.
And I know, like, I don't have a lot of knowledge about this, but I know that other countries, have rewritten their document of principles, or their constitution, whatever you want to call it, just to fit the times, or to make it more time sensitive. And my question is, like, do you think it's like a progressive thing to be able to work off of principles and even change them, and even just like the Ninth Amendment, like enumerated rights, like being able to add stuff, or I don't think you can't really take away stuff that's harder. But like, is that, like, I think my question, I think it's to everyone too, like, is that as America, as our, as American people, do you think like that's okay to do? Like, is that how we progress, or do we, make it different and kind of tweak it a little bit? Or, because I think that's like what the problem is that one piece of legislation, policy, whatever you want to call it, is really like that's the factor. Like, that's what's,
right. Well, I do, I do think it's, it will be definitely really hard to, change the Second Amendment if we're still, talking about that. As hard as it would be changing the First Amendment or the Third Amendment or the Fourth Amendment, so forth. Where it does stand, I think, and, being, not a native of this country, I came from Colombia, blah, blah, and, learning and reading the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, I think the forefathers of this country knew exactly what they were writing at the time period. I think they were ahead of their time, like really, really genius people. And I do think that the Second Amendment, the way it was written, I think they did think that, hey, technology will advance and it won't only be muskets and flintlocks and all that stuff. And eventually, these armadas will find a way to shoot this musket, 25 times, very, easily. So I do think they were thinking about that. And especially to this amendment, I believe that, in case leadership, like, let's say the higher ups, whoever it is in Congress, tries to reach into our, whatever it may be, we have that right to defend ourselves. Like, you have a right to protect your property or do whatever you want. I always err on the side of freedom, even though I may not agree with many things that people might be doing. Whatever, it's your right. Go ahead and do it. I don't really care. But I think that amendment itself was, it was written the way, and I think it should remain that way.
Right. Okay. No, that's good. That's good to hear. And I enjoyed, listening to your explanation and your perspective. And I think, cause that's like, I have to realize, like, I was reading this thing, like, to be American is to, like, really share those philosophies, because America is like one big melting pot of people, so it's just, they can get into a whole conversation about that too. But like, I think that's just the way that our country is just, it chooses to be run. And I think a lot of people see freedom as like freedom to be safe, if that makes sense. And I think that's why a lot of people are either scared or angry about it. It's because people just want to feel safe in their country, but it's also because our country is based off of like, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
Like liberty is like, it's the center one. That's a huge part of our makeup as a country. And I think that is like probably why it's such a heated debate. And why it's hard to talk about, because, I do agree with you. I think that, our founding fathers were very intelligent, and they understood that things would need to change with the times, and they understood like what they wanted. They were also revolutionists. They wanted a better country for people. And I think we just have to, like, as a country, like, maintain that philosophy. And I see it as like, I want to be a social worker. I'm a humanitarian. Like, I want to advocate for people so that we all can live in a beautiful country. And I think that's just like where I'm coming from,
Yeah, no,
so,
I get that.
Yeah. Also, like, a big peace hippie. So, like, that that's, part of it too. But I think logically that's like where I'm coming from. But.
Yeah. Well, I like peace a lot. I like tranquility. I like talking to people. I like having a good time. I wish that everybody would have the same mindset as us, where we like that. We like that peace. But unfortunately, there are people who like to do a lot of bad things, and they may catch you off guard. There may be things that you may think like, oh man, I can go down this dark alley and nothing will happen to me. But that won't be the case. I do think having a countermeasure for us, the citizens, specifically, to protect ourselves from other people who may be doing bad things to us, or even the government trying to overreach and, destroy us, kind of like let's take, for example, Hitler.
Sort of tyranny or dictatorship. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. And I think it's, both, I think we have very valid, responses. I think we just had like a beautiful conversation about that.
Yeah.
And it's also important, just like, even if like one of our opinions was just like utter crap, like it wasn't really happening, we're still entitled to those opinions because we're people, and that's just who we are.
Exactly.
But how we just had this like wonderful conversation about how we differ in opinion, like that's what it's all about. Is just being able to kind of set aside emotions for a minute, because emotions are involved, but to just be able to intellectually talk about something that, is a concern for you, or you just want to learn, it's just about learning and growing. And, but that's hard for people. And so, it's hard for me, but that's kind of why I started doing this, to become better at it and to be a, more fruitful conversationalist.
Right.
So, yeah, but no, I mean, I had a wonderful time. I think we have a couple minutes. But is there anything else you want to say or?
Yeah. So you've never shot a gun before, have you?
No, I have not.
Are you ever interested?
Personally, I kind of like am one of those people that I want to learn from people, but I don't want to actually pursue the same things.
Right.
So I would not like to, but I appreciate the offer. I do appreciate it. Yes.
Because it's I think it's I was just gonna say something else. It's I think a lot of Americans should at least get familiar with the workings of a firearm, or even just firearm safety, at least knowing the 5 basic rules. Just don't point the gun at anyone or anything that's important to you, or keep your finger off the trigger before you're absolutely ready to fire, or know what's behind you, stuff like that. I think all that is important, especially if people some people just never think they're ever going to handle a gun, and that's okay. But if you're ever in the situation, you know what to do, and you're familiar with the steps. Yeah.
No, I almost agree with, I'm not going to agree with that completely, because
I understand.
Like if I even see a gun, like I won't even pick it up. I'll just let what happens to me happen. Like at that point, just because that's how I feel. But I do understand philosophy completely. How you just, people to defend themselves anyway. You want to make sure people are trained. It's kind of like driving a car.
Hey guys. Just letting you know the time is coming to a close. I want you guys to be able to finish your topic. I know that you just had a moment where you said you don't want to agree entirely. If you want to finish that, feel free. And then once that topic is done, I'll take back over.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was just saying to Nick how I was like, I probably won't. Yeah, I won't do that. But I appreciate what you were saying. And I also really appreciate this conversation and having you join us here at We Are Human / Providence Haven.
Yep.
And I just had the most wonderful time. So thank you so much for being
I appreciate you having me on and having this conversation. I think it was very fruitful. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Well, I mean, we'll keep in touch. That we definitely will.
Of course, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Yeah, I hope you stay safe, stay healthy.
You as well.
And yeah, and we're gonna do it.
Awesome. Yeah.